Outlast came out in 2012 and supposed to be the big budget Hollywood flashy horror game we'd all been waiting for. Well, most of us. I was still sort of sitting in a corner waiting for Amnesia: A Machine for Pigs to come out. Anyway, as it turned out, I got Outlast at the time simply because I needed my horror fix, and the lackluster indie titles at the time, fueled by the arrival of Slender, the 8 pages, was slowly boring me to death. Whilst Outlast is technically nothing new by any means, the majority of the game's features were done before in other games, and most of those games did it better. Outlast is like a fine stew. It's more about the overall experience rather than the individual parts. Outlast throws all of these fantastic horror elements at you in one go. So let's take a look at it piece by piece, starting with the atmosphere. The setting for Outlast is the Mount Massive Mental Asylum. There's been a massive outbreak and the patients are just walking free, going about their business, whether it be watching the static or the television, or attempting to beat you to a bloody pulp. The game's atmosphere comes from moments when you aren't being chased, when you're walking amongst the patients and exploring the hallways. The night vision camera limits your vision and makes traversing rooms a very tense and unnerving experience. You see events that take place that aren't anything to do with you sometimes, but make you uneasy, like patients walking around the room that you're in, talking to themselves, or breaking open doors or knocking themselves inside. The atmosphere is pretty good. It's not as thick as Amnesia or as empty as Silent Hill 2, but it does its job. It's creepy. It's unsettling. So that's one Harry Mason out of the possible 5. Jump scares. Now, I'm not an advocate for jump scares. I think they're cheap and unnecessary. But when a well-executed scripted event pops up and scares the bejesus out of me, I can't help but admire the game for it. Outlast is a series of great scripted events that catch the player off guard and fills them with terror. Not all the events are top-notch and some of them are predictable, which, being executed by a series of mental patients where unpredictability is the main thing that you do actually expect, being able to guess what's going to happen next is a bit disappointing. Still, the good certainly outnumber the bad. 2 out of 5 Harry Masons. Sound design. Well, the sound design could have been better in my opinion. Even with headphones, the game wasn't really that impressive. The soundtrack was amazing though. It picked up at just the right moments to accentuate events. No Harry Masons for this part though. Gore. You get a part of you surgically removed. No, not that part. I know what you're thinking. You have to go the rest of the game seeing that part of you that was removed, and it's a haunting reminder of what happened. 3 out of 5 Harry Masons. And finally, story. The story in Outlast was weak. I didn't remember much of it in my first playthrough. It all seemed a little too cliche. Dude goes to mental asylum to expose the place as being terrible. Dude gets trapped inside terrible mental asylum during breakout. Dude spends majority of the game attempting to escape from terrible mental asylum. Good job there were documents in the game to bolster the story for the first 2/3, and then the game presented an interesting twist at the end, and then finally Whistleblower DLC came along to reinforce the story, making it interesting at least. Final score ranks 4 out of 5 Harry Masons. At its core, it's an amalgamation of different successful games, but unlike the watered-down horror games of Hollywood or whatever, Outlast remains gritty and intense, using all its features to its advantage. Corridor chases from monstrous patients, dark, disgusting locations, gore, limited vision from the night vision camera, great scripted events, and an awesome soundtrack. 4 out of 5 Harry Masons. So that's it for this episode. The whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games, so if you don't share these opinions, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that whilst I was scared by Outlast when I played it, I did not scream like a banshee or run away from the computer, and I advise you don't either. There'll be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching, and always go check out the bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.